Once again, a very good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome. And it's really a pleasure to see such a vibrant community of educators who have gathered here, united by a shared passion for learning and excellence in education. And on behalf of Burlington English, I wish to extend my heartfelt gratitude to each one of you for joining. Today, we are extremely delighted to have with us our esteemed resource person, Ms. Devyani Kapoor. Ma'am brings with her rich experience, deep insight, and a forward thinking approach to education. So, without further ado, I would want to introduce Devyani Kapoor, ma'am, even though she has been the guiding light for so many of us and we have so many times listened to her. But it's truly a pleasure to talk about her. Devyani ma'am is an advisor at Burlington English. She's a seasoned academician, mentor, and motivational coach with over 30 years of experience in the education sector. She has worked with leading institutions, including DAV schools, Amity schools, and heritage schools, focusing on educator upskilling, student empowerment, and integrating sustainable development goals into learning frameworks. Her work has impacted thousands of educators and students. She has also been honored with the iconic and Edupreneur of the Year 2021 award among many other prestigious accolades for her outstanding contributions to education. Today, she'll guide us through an engaging and thought provoking session on elevating teaching learning dynamics, integrating innovation, and digital engagement. I would love to encourage everyone to drop your questions in the Q&A section so we can have Devyani ma'am's insights on them. And now, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Sushri, and my deep gratitude to Burlington English to honor me to take this kind of session, something which is deep, a thought which is very deep seated in my heart, that I am able to reach out as many educators as possible, and really don't know how many lives am I able to touch on. Thank you so much. And without much ado, let's just start with today's session. And a very good evening to my dear educators. And to this today's session, before I start today's session, there is a short interactive questionnaire for you. And I would want your thoughts and reflections on just think of one classroom moment from past just 1 year that truly felt memorable. You may just put in a phrase, or you may uh, write a sentence, but nothing more than that. One moment which has truly been memorable, but just last 1 year, not before that. Anyone, yes, you will want to think about it, so take that time. Any one moment, any child, any incident which touched you, and you carry that incident with you. Yeah. At the moment, I'm waiting. Conditional grammar, expect when all students would listen. Questionnaires, solve questionnaires. Okay, very good. Student asked, "Are friends not family?" My students, very nice. Where children and me, we all enjoyed the teaching learning experience. Lovely. Watching my students confidently speaking and solving real life problems, amazing. I'm sorry, I will not be able to take the names because the scroller is moving so fast. The chat is moving very fast. Very good. All right. Having said that, my next question is very related. So when you said my students speak confidently, able to solve problems and so much, was the moment driven more, your wow moment was more driven by your teaching or by your students' curiosity? Was this wow moment driven by your teaching? Change in behavior, ma'am, showing courage. But what governed? Was it your teaching practice or was it the students' curiosity? This is my second question. You have three questions in a row. The chat has stopped. Yes. Keep interacting, keep writing, learning by doing, students' curiosity, okay? Student involvement, both. Very good. Students' curiosity. Some people say it was students' curiosity, some say it was my teaching methodology, and effectively, we said that yes, it was both. Okay, one last question to you, and in that, you will just say yes or no. Did any digital tool or online activity play a role in that moment? Wow, student curiosity. That's impressive. Play based learning, both. Okay. Now, did any online technique was the reason for this wow moment of your class, of that lesson? Okay. Yes, yes, yes. Lots of said yes. Wow. I will come. Lots of you are saying yes, it was the online or some kind of digital tool that you used became the trigger of that wow moment. So that means, thank you so much. That means a good teaching or teaching learning environment in the class is the sum total of so many things, of which technology is becoming an important tool. Thank you so much. And may we move on to the next slide, please, Sushri? Yeah, so today, of course, be talking about analyzing what is the evolving dynamics of teaching and learning in the 21st century classrooms. What do the classrooms ask today? What is the environment that exists? Of course, we'll be exploring teacher student relationships, the importance of building competencies and skills in this VUCA and a very, very dynamic world. And we will also be somewhere exploring what are the best tools. Of course, we'll not be talking about going deep into how the tools work, but explore some of the tools for sure. Next slide, please. Yes, thank you so much. Okay, you see, you can see in front of you evolution of education, and I've always felt that education has always mirrored the society it serves. Just imagine the hunter gatherer, that hunter gatherer boy who never sat for any exam, didn't go to any classrooms, never undertook an assessment, but he became so proficient and so skilled only by being part of the elders when they would go for a kill or they would go for a hunt. So, practicing the traits and the crafts, and at times receiving feedback from Mother Nature, skills to kill, skills to identify, move a few centuries. And there is a categorical shift in and come their aggregate agrarian societies. With agricultural revolution and these societies, we see another aspect of education. Suddenly, education, there is a division or diversification or a divide in the society where a set elites go to schools and are exploring their hands with texts, etc., while maximum people are busy learning and working through apprentice. So both ways education was happening. We can't say they were the educated ones and the others who were involved in apprenticeships and learning the trades and crafts were not. But there was this kind of a divide. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yes. Now, this is slide which actually is something we need to stop and reflect upon. The modern age transformation that we've seen, fast forward, standardized curriculum. Students are, you all know about it, students are memorizing formulas, sitting for exams, earn credentials. As I always say, a man born after 100 years will say that everything has changed. The whole world is a different when you look at it. But the moment I go into the classrooms, when I look at education, it is the same. Essentially, no matter how experiential learning we have gotten into or any kind of other techniques, but essentially, schools do exist in red bricks, classrooms do function, but something inside is changing. These systems, though produce excellent risk takers, also uh, adults who understand society, who are there's a lot of progression happening when it terms of leading a life like a well-defined job, a house, marriage. So aspects are being taken care of, but there is a big gap that is existing. Now, what is that gap? And that is why we are here for. That is why we are interacting. That what is, how can we elevate the teaching learning dynamics in today's world or in this VUCA world? Because somewhere our education system is more like Nokia in the age of iPhone. They both are used for calling, they both are functional, but one lacks purpose. We are using Nokia in the age of iPhone, and I know you will understand what I'm trying to say. When I look at the artificial intelligence, which is coming with a lightning speed, which today we are so embroiled by speaking about artificial intelligence, but this massive revolution was like an acceleration of something that was already happening and quietly simmering in the background. It's just that we in classrooms did not notice. We thought this is something outside, this is something which is happening in the industry. Classrooms are all about textbooks, curriculum, syllabus, teaching, learning process, marks. Let me tell you one thing. The Economic Forum want to share a statistics says that the average person in the coming years will not just change one job, but will be changing 5 professions in his working lifetime. You may, and I think today also a lot of engineers and a lot of people who are doing MBA, they are not finding the jobs what they have been educated for, but they are the people who can adapt to the changing and adapt skills with the changing industry, changing scenario. They are fitting in so well. Next slide, please. We move on to what this, because this is the age of meta. So, what this meta world looks like to us in a world, you see, where specific knowledge is quickly becoming obsolete. And I just said that 5 years, 5 professions, sorry, will be an average human working life will undergo. So, what kind of education we need to provide to our students? Can I very quickly, and I know you're all very intelligent group of academicians with me, what do you think? Whatever is in your mind, skill based, excellent. skill based education. Okay, then I just got one. Good evening. Skill based, sustainable, very good. Excellent. Don't shy away from speaking your mind. Please, whatever comes your mind will definitely be correct, because at the end of the day, hands on learning, practical knowledge, tech based, application based, inquiry based, new learning power, and you're already there. You're already there. You already know. Then why can't we change the environment which exists in our classroom? We, all of us, know about this. This is not no eureka moment for us. We know it. Then why our classrooms are still functioning in the way we are? Can we have the other slide, please? Next slide. So, this uncertainty requires this fundamental shift. And what is that fundamental shift? It is not just in curriculum, not just in pedagogy, not just in assessment. It is exactly how we are going to conceive and perceive education. So rather, there was a time, training was very specialized. So rather training individuals, like in front of you, you have two images, one of a Damascus blade, the other is of a Swiss army knife. What do you think would today's child be required to become? Can I have you again put in the chat box? In your mind, both could be right, one could be right. In your mind, your opinion, which kind of this Swiss knife, multi-skill Swiss knife, absolutely, you all are there. This is exactly what is required today, because the speed and the pace with which information, the pace with which the knowledge is transforming, we cannot just hold on to one particular type of skill sets. We need to imbibe our students with capabilities that might retain their values regardless of how technology evolves. Understanding complex systems, their interaction. So, critical evaluation of information and its sources becomes very important. Creative approaches will become extremely important. Creative approaches to problem solving. So, the meta world capabilities would enable adaptation to changing circumstances. So, one that you should be very clear that today the students have to develop a skill set where the biggest skill set would be their ability to learn how to learn, to adapt to the changing environment and scenarios. So, the real goal is no longer static knowledge, just to recap, or acquisition, but a continuous adaptation. Skills like understanding complex systems, critically evaluating an information, being able to take informed decisions. So, those are the skills that would be required. If understanding this and knowing all this, and in fact you have given answer to everything, I again ask you and would want you to reflect in the chat box, then what does teaching mean to you? We were just talking about curriculum, syllabus, pedagogies, books, so many things, a classroom, timetable, and a test series. But now, then, what would teaching mean to you? You understand. Multidimensional, guiding students, excellent. Overall development, teaching life skills, Swiss knife, good nourished child overall to face realities, holistic development, developing holistic development, molding kids, happy classrooms. Yes, very good. So we all know what is the requirement. At least we are sorted till here that we know what is it that we require. Let us look at something. how the dynamics are shifting, and how learners are going to change over 5 years. Next slide, please. Sharing knowledge and prepare them to face. Absolutely. Bang on. Teaching is a guide. Very good. Okay. Next slide. Yes. You see, today the child might learn coding before cursive, and where artificial intelligence is the biggest teacher. Let's look at what the realities we face. So, children today grow up surrounded by, I would say, screens, swipes, algorithm driven content, which may be jargons to us, but I'm sure the young generation represented by our young Sushri and Dolly sitting there, I'm sure they understand what I'm talking. I might not understand because I don't keep using the swipes and the algorithm driven content, but they are. So that's the challenge that we are all facing. They have never had more access to ideas, to information, to entertainment. They convert entertainment into a revenue generating model. That's the kind. So the philosophy of खेलोगे कूदोगे बनोगे खराब और पढ़ोगे लिखोगे बनोगे नवाब will have, anyways, decades ago it didn't work. Today it just does not work. But is digital technology helping young people or harming them? You may keep punching your responses. We'll be very happy to take them and take note of that. As technology connects us, it can also divide us. Most of the time, if you're sitting in a drawing room or sitting in a bedroom, you see everybody, including you, your husband, your children, your parents, they are all hinging on to their gadgets. And we miss out. So, knowledge and information, you see, is dynamic. And the reality then is, what am I doing in the classroom then? So, what do I do? Yes, harming, misused, increase in number of deaths. Yes, we did register just a horrible incident where the three girls, sisters, committed suicide. Digital technology helps children when it's limited. Laziness. Yes, absolutely, Lisa. What you're saying is completely right. But then, should I keep trumpeting? Two chapters are left, four more pages. Test series one or term one will have so many chapters, so many pages you have to do. These are the only. What is my role? Why am I not changing myself? Why am I not transforming myself as an educator? Because I'm still stuck up in that preconditioned label that an educator carries. Can you change the slide, please? Yes, we have these shifting dynamics you can see, and I think that's not a rocket science for you. You know, when I talk about the changing role of educator, you may move on to the next slide. The rapid integration is forcing us, of AI is forcing us that reflect, think about my role. What is my role? Because if it is just information provider, I'm not going to be able to stand tall. In fact, today when I was reading an article on LinkedIn, and it was very interesting, and I don't know why I'm so tempted to share with you. It's by, there was this article was some by someone else, but he quoted Seymour Papert. He's lived between 2000 to 1928 till 2016. He was an South African born American mathematician, researcher, computer scientist, and educator. And he said something, and I just about 2 hours back read it, and I said, I want to share this with you people. He said, children don't learn by receiving knowledge, whether the knowledge provider is AI or a teacher. He didn't know at that time about AI. They learn by creating things. And he said something very interesting, and I want you to take it down. I'll go very slow. He says, when learners make something tangible, learning becomes very personal, very durable, and very transferable. So just you can even think about a dish at night which you would want, which you prepare, or a meal that you prepare, because it's very personal. So the act, he says, of creation, the act of creating something forces the child or forces the person for decisions. Should I add this, or should I add this, or how much quantity of what I am uh, uh, or what ingredients I may be. And this leads to, this decisions then invites reflection. And then reflection deepens the understanding. And he said way back, understanding. And this is the whole process. I urge you to please make a note of it, because let it be there somewhere. You may reflect probably after 2 months, 1 month, or maybe when a child creates something, you might just say, oh, yes, I think it is Peppard's flowchart. And Peppard said coding wasn't a vocational skill that we so much say skill set. He said it was just a language of thinking. By programming children learned how ideas work, how systems behave, and how mistakes reveal. So never be shy, never let them not do mistakes, because mistakes reveal structure, and persistently working towards those mistakes will lead to perfection. And that is exactly what is required. Curiosity isn't a distraction. In many classrooms today, we will make, we still mistake activity for learning and coverage for comprehension, he says. You know, activity is happening so the child is learning. But is the child using brain? How am I? What is my role? How I'm motivating? So, one thing teachers clearly, let's now bang on talk about your role. Move on to the next slide, please. Yeah, he's my very favorite, and I always consider him my academic guru, though I've never met him, but I've read so much Krishnamurti, and Krishnamurti, way back, decades back, spoke that uh, an educator's role is to lead the child to wisdom, to lead the child to the desire to know more. That is what he said. The next slide, please. So, yes, now come 2026, AI revolution. AI is, kind of expanding. It's like an invasion in my classroom. AI is perceived, so AI is perceived as a tool for efficiency, knowledge, information. Never try to compete with AI. Never try to pit yourself or pit students against AI. You will always be defeated. But with time, then how do I manage my classrooms? How do I elevate teaching learning dynamics? What do I do in the classroom? So these questions become scare us. So what my role should be? My role then should be generating those learning experiences that suit different learning styles. So your focus, more than completing a chapter or completing a task, should be on effective learning experience for different for different children, different experiences for different children. So become those learning architects. Next slide, please. Keep moving. Then become those mentors. There's so much of talk about mentor mentee, that somewhere itna we have heard about mentor mentee program, mentor mentee, that we've lost the real meaning of the word mentor and guide. Somebody did mention role of educators is guiding the students, mentoring them, helping them think critically, applauding their mistakes, leading them, encouraging them, motivating them. It's fine, it's completely fine. Don't push them to find the right answers. Push them to explore different possibilities, different algorithms. So, your role should be of designing those, your focus should be for designing such experiences through a chapter that every child relates to it. And that is going to be your wow moment. And believe you me, you will be loved, applauded like anything. So, moving on, I'll share a slide. Yes, I'll share this slide with you. And it's a very, very interesting slide. And you will be very happy to know that while students are increasingly relying, and that's like a win win for me, while students are increasingly relying on AI for, academic queries, as it says about 60%, I would say now, this is an older data of last year, now it would probably have crossed 80%. They rely for academic queries, but a good 80 plus percent, which is a huge number, huge percentage, go and seek help of educators, elders, caregivers when it comes to decision making. Now, what kind of decision? Choosing a career, choosing a stream, or being, if they're very low or if they're depressed, for emotional resilience. They go to their teachers. They're so very clearly, the takeaway from this data is crystal clear that teacher's role is not now as just giver of information. So be it's fine if you don't know some formulas of chemistry or some dates of history, or probably you're not up with some, because knowledge is constantly the content in your textbooks will keep changing. I remember 10 years, 20 years, we used to I read my uncle's textbooks to take my exam of college. And now, then it was 10 years, 12 years, then 5 years. And now I think every month, every year, the content, the publishers are coming up with newer versions and newer, because they are relating the content to the changing scenarios. So, what is required? Next slide. What is then my. Yes, look at this slide. And there are certain words. So, Shri, can you come back to the first slide first, next slide, and then we can move on to this? No, the next slide, from the next and next. Yes, yes. Let me just, this is my very, very favorite slide, because I'd always never let the human touch move out of my classrooms. But that was like by my choice. But today, it will not be a choice. It will be by default, we will have to integrate the human touch. So, my next question to you is, now it is in 5 years. First, the question was 1 year. Now it is in 5 years. How have your students changed in last 5 years? Just think about it. The way they learn, the way they express, how your students have changed. I'm sure there's a lot of conversation, more interactive, restless, more expressive. Lovely. Tech, confident speakers, more communicative. They want to speak their mind. Yes. And they're not scared. They have become restless and they need more interaction, influenced by technology, true, depending on too much talk. Yes. Yes, technically, I can, the is using no empathy is there. Yes, no empathy. Ask about doubts. They're talkative. They don't ask doubts. They don't understand something. They say it's okay. We'll go to physics wala or YouTube or this or that, and we are going to get the answers from technology. Yes, yes, absolutely. So, having said that, our the human centered learning, you see, that rests on certain things, a curriculum which we thought, if I like, if I'm in a mood, or I may be empathetic, I may like this, I may not like that. It was completely by my choice. The human centered learning, which rests on interconnected foundations, which rests on care, nurture, trusted relationships. But do I even have time? 50 बच्चों के साथ कौन relationships बनाएगा? Where do I get the time? Here it is, Devyani ma'am talking about something else, and I have to come in the classroom and let us see the realities. I have to check 50 notebooks in a class 5 times in a year or 6 times in a year, and I'm only involved in generating question papers. And here she comes and talks about forming relationships. She's gone berserk. No, dear, teachers have not gone berserk. I'm only warning you, I'm only making you alert. Our, so, our question is, are classroom spaces where students feel heard, safe to express themselves? And how do our teaching methods should evolve, should change, so that the content is delivered, but at the time it gives a lot of space and lot of nurturing and lot of interaction happens. Next slide, please. So we will be dwelling upon these, and I will be taking one by one, but let me also take you to the next slide, which is actually nearly the same. So I'm going to now take up that, how can I elevate my classroom's environment, the base of which is my teaching learning strategies. First thing is, and which is very important, is, create psychological safety for your children. डरा डराना नहीं है. We don't have to scare if the why this teacher is coming. I don't like this teacher. She is biased. I don't want to speak in this class. Make it clear that classroom is a space where mistakes are part of learning. So you should first tell them that it's fine, keep making mistakes because you're learning. Acknowledge when students take an intellectual risk. Suppose they think something or ask a very challenging question. Most of the time we say, okay, बहुत ज़्यादा आता है आपको, पहले आप बैठ जाओ और जो what is given in your textbook, focus on that. No, don't do that. You'll kill the curiosity and the desire to learn in children. Respond to their errors with encouragement, constructive feedbacks, which I'm sure you're giving. I know there is a lot of pressure on you, but still, if you hold on to these 4, 5 things, and even if you try to do one in your one classroom in a day, I think you have a win win situation and you'll be a most popular teacher of your school. Then empathy becomes very, when somebody did write, a lot of people wrote empathy, that children are losing empathy because somewhere we are losing, not giving them empathetic. We are devoid, not being able to provide that empathy from our end, that students, learning students names, which is a very old thing, and I'm sure we do tend to learn today, we have become that. And giving that time to express, understanding that if the child is coming late, if he did not do the homework and he said somebody was ill, and even if he was watching TV last night, try and believe it. Believe it and give him another chance. I'm sure this is going to work magic. Don't get into that, no, 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 you were lying, this, that, you were watching Netflix, and that is why. Please don't do that, because this will not work anymore. Authoritative things will, attitudes and gestures will not work now. You'll have to be, as they say, guides on the side, mentors, compassionate adults, have strong bonds, so you'll be able to orchestrate and make them dance to your tunes or fingers. Very important. A lot of you wrote about that. Students are very expressive, they are very talkative, and they speak a lot, they are restless. That means they have a voice. So hear them out and provide them with goals, take their choices, uh, and integrate them into your teaching learning processes. So encourage them to be the decision makers of what should we do first, what chapters we could do through a project, or what can be done. And once you've taken enough feedback as a group of teachers, then you may would want to design your curriculum or syllabus according to their feedback. So, those genuine, these are some of the things. And then there is so much, inclusivity, cultural sensitivity becomes important. All these things. Now, with uh, one thing I always feel, and I move to so many schools, many schools in a year, and I see somewhere as educators, we must exhibit more humility and patience. You know, being listeners, patient listeners, because I know we've been so much in a habit of speaking that at times at our play home also, I mean, at my house, I've been told, please don't become a teacher in the house. So I know but now we need to reimagine us. We need to remodel us. We need to listen to them because they have a lot of access to information. So, when we talk finally about teaching learning dynamics, it begins here. It begins with this reflection. It begins today when you're attending this, more than how am I going to change the student, please keep noting down how am I going to change myself and conduct myself in the classrooms so that I can elevate the teaching learning and integrate technology in the best possible. So please encourage them to use chat, but guide them to what kind of prompts will you give, you will get the right kinds of answers or information. So you cannot stop them from using AI. So don't even try and don't even think about it. But we need to question, are we enthusiastic enough? Or still I carry that book and open the book in the classroom and say, all right, chapter number this, paragraph this, answer 5, this to this. Are we still in that? So that's a reflection question you need to think about. And one more thing that, you know, you're doing a lot of collage, as Pepper said, that doing activity does not qualify for doing an experiential learning, the child experiencing learning. No, sometimes we give activities and we see, is the child is there enough collaborative experience that the child is happening, is, are we giving them enough projects, are we attaching those things to their real life applications, are we linking theory to practice? So each lesson, when you're teaching, sit amongst your peer groups, your co-teachers, and design and today lots of all the textbooks, like every publisher gives lots of hands-on and real life application activities. But there's something which again I would want, and could Sushri go back to that slide, the slide before, which I was talking about. This is my very favorite, the slide before this. Yes, Babila says activities help children learn as well. Absolutely, they learn. But what kind of activity? Are we following that full circle in terms of the slide before this, Sushri? Yes. Today's classrooms will be governed by these four aspects. which we did in lot of. One is the what are you teaching? Don't focus too much on teaching of content, but focus on teaching them how to sift, how to make sense out of that content, and how are they able to apply information that is generated. Help them build insights, ability. If there is a question or if there is a problem, that ability to find or join the dots to the issues that you're dealing in the classrooms, and how that issue is linked to what is happening outside the classroom and what is happening outside the four walls of school. So insight becomes extremely important. Joining the dots, going beyond, you beat the AI. To run AI, we need human intellect. Who's running AI? After all, the kind of prompts that we give, the quality of answers. So, educate them on that. Create your questions, create your answers where they are forced to first write the, have a lot of focus on writing the right kinds. Give them comparative answers. Insight will help them to join the dots, create patterns, analyze the patterns, understand the biases that exist. So insight is also linked to your critical thinking. So if there is a piece of information, how that information is perceived by the different children, what insight they bring to the table when there is discussion going on. Again, creativity is something. So you may use AI as a tool to generate a novel, for example, but what is creativity is apply that how you're conceptualizing a plot, how you're kind of dealing with the ideas and biases, how you are integrating cultural inclusivity, how you are uh, integrating things that are having crossed the borders, how that integration is happening. So that is real creativity. Let them come up with stories, but each story will be different. Each story will reflect that child's mindset and what he thinks. And wahan pe you need to hold the child's thought. That is what we don't do. We are only looking at the grammar and the text and the lines but we are losing. And of course, we did a lot of talk on empathy, that empathy holds pedagogy together when AI is part of the learning process. AI is part of your learning process. Digital tools you have to integrate. You cannot do without integrating the digital tools. So the idea is no longer uh, how much did the student learn, but today, your ideas or your thought or your focus should be what can students do with what they learn? And immediately, you know, you will come up with brim with ideas as to what kind of projects I can. Don't forget what Saver Puppet said, that when the child is involved, when he creates something, then his learning is personalized, it's tangible, and it's transferable. Very evolved and powerful thought that he gave. So as a teacher, I know there will be a lot of limitations that you will be facing because you are existing in a structure. You are, your classroom transactions are not limited to yours. It is linked to the whole process, the way school functions and governs. But in that 90% similarity, you can just steal a 10% and create a little different variation in that. Next slide, please, Sushri. And next. And next, yeah. So think of one lesson that you've taught recently, maybe yesterday or day before, your favorite one or one that quite didn't go as planned. And now think about it. Did you think, why did it not go as planned? Or if it went, then what was my somewhere you got deviated from the goal? Were your students engaged? Which method worked best? What could have been better or in your class, or if it was a wow, just I'll give you a 30 seconds or a 1 minute window to just think and jot it down. That is just for your personal. I know chat is be very difficult for you, but this is a big reflection. In a minute, I did it with the playful method. Amazing. They were engaged and it was a wow moment. And what was your goal? Was the goal matched to your pedagogy or the curriculum? Method, try, answer by themselves. Very good. So these should be your reflection questions. Whenever you're doing a chapter, just have it in little that pink or a black little diary. Somewhere scribble it, and your lessons will never go wrong. Let us look at a lovely case study. Next slide, please. Role play, interactive. I know you're already there. The only thing is that somewhere the pressure of completion. So, Ria was a bride. Let's look at this case study. Ria was a bright student, and uh, rarely she speaks in the class. She listens carefully and takes notes, but avoids eye contact and gives very short and timid answers when asked to share. The teacher says, "Oh, sit down." The other students laugh. So she's drifting in that shell and somehow doubting her own abilities to answer. At one CBSE school, the teacher noticed she was one of, like you, one of the very bright and passionate educators. And she said the teachers noticed this pattern. And she just introduced a simple change. Instead of calling on students verbally, she used a Google Jamboard where everyone could post their ideas very anonymously. And the result was students that, like Ria, began contributing. They, without any inhibition, they started giving, coming out of their shyness and started. And the class discussion became so rich, more inclusive. So, what do you think changed? Wasn't her ability or it was her comfort? Yes, students feel heard. What change do you think happened? Was it her ability? Comfort, yes. She already had that ability. Very good. Very happy. When students feel heard, they gradually become more comfortable. Very nice. I think this is such a now the only thing that is required. Yes, ma'am, always should be in touch with amazing. Freely heard. Yes. Thank you so much. I think you're already there. The only thing is you need to take that action that I am going to elevate my teaching learning environment come what may. Great. Next slide, please. So, very quickly, this slide brings in some kind of, which of course I've put in here for you, and I'm sure you all would be using. So, some aspects of, some tools that you can integrate in your classrooms is, you know, tools like Padlet or Jamboard. It's something for very collaborative and experiential learning. So instead of one student answering, lot of students can imagine, and that every student can contribute to the discussions. You can use them for group brainstorming, peer feedback, and collecting reflections after. You can even ask for, how did my lesson go? Where did I go wrong? Without you feeling, you know, hurt, that how could, or without feeling intimidated. But you can also take your feedbacks, that how was the lesson. And then, for assessment for learning, tools like Kahoot or Mentimeter, these tools, uh, the assessments where you don't have to test that makes students very anxious, just kind of slightly. Why not have smaller assessments? And always remember that, the assessment, when you're talking about the different approaches and the shift, not only promotes creativity, the shift in how you teach, how you assess, it not only promotes creativity and problem solving, but it also aligns learning with assessment, real world skills, ethical judgments. And then, you are able to redefine pedagogy with the help of these tools. And then assessment needs to go beyond the traditional, what do you say, traditional methodology of assignments and capturing those responses instantly. But assessment may prioritize. So your assessment, if you want to create a elevate your learning, teaching learning abilities in your classroom, your assessment should, I would say, uh, also focus on the process of learning. Some marks should be devoted not just to the right and wrong answers, but the process of learning, to reasoning and reflection. These three, four things. So, meaning that your questions should have reasoning, reflections, well, not just focus. So at every step, you're able to kind of give these. And these are some of the tools, I'm sure, as I said. I mean, you've all been using, now schools make it mandatory, but the thing is, it's in our hand how many tools we can use and how we can, don't bombard them. But honestly, it's a challenge for us. It's never a challenge for them because they are very hands on with technology. Next slide, please. As we come to the end of this, yes, same collaboration. You can use Padlet, Jamboard for assessment. Freely use Kahoot, Mentimeter. You can make those feedback instant and fun. And creative and expression, help them use Canva. In fact, what's the harm if you want to learn from students that I really don't know, but I've heard of Canva, and let's just work on Canva collaboratively. Let's understand how design works. So I think that's the kind of collaborative environment that you are required to create. And please do not forget what Saver Peppert talk about, that it's all about in when the child creates something, it's personal, it's tangible, it's transferable, and at each stage, it leads him to informed decision making. When making happens, then a lot of critical thinking happens, reflection happens. Even though you make mistakes, you have at least understanding of what you are or were you trying to create or not create. Next slide, and we come to the end of the session. Bang on, I completed the session on time. Next slide. Very important, fourth part of today's. I mean, I like that. I really like authentic, genuine feedbacks. So use these integrate tools and integrate. You will also get to know what lesson helped you, which part you got stuck. because normally we'll never get into it. Student will, nahi ma'am humko aa gaya, we know everything, but the marks will be like marks exam mein dabba goal kind of a situation. So I hope with this I wind up today's session, and I'm open to any queries and any kind of feedback you want to give. Thank you so much. I hope the session did make bring relevance to you. I hope you're able to take, even implement the slightest, even 2%, if you're able to implement, from how I am going to be a teacher and how I can elevate. So integrating the 4 to 5 aspects of empathy, psychological safety, creativity, insight, and blending it and churning it and turning the mixer on with your digital tools will create a wonderful cake in your classrooms. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for enlightening us. And I'm sure with the insights that you have shared and with all our passion and endeavors to put into practice from the learnings that we have taken from this session, the teaching and learning process will become even more fulfilling. Now, we can quickly look at some of the queries that we have in our Q&A section. These are not necessarily queries from the discussion, ma'am.
Mhm.
There's just one question about the certificate. Dolly, will you be able to answer? How is this provided? The certificate?
There's a question how to ensure the emotional well being of a student. This is exactly what I spoke about. When you talk about the emotional well being of the student, it's very important for you to have trusted conversations and relationships going beyond the child's academic performance, and having helping him provide the psychological safety, and that there is no set recipe, that your the psychological safety is your own, the space that you as a teacher are going to provide to them when they feel heard, they feel that if and they feel that they will not be judged, no matter whether they perform well in their academics or they do not perform well in their academics. This teacher is actually going to listen to me. So emotional. And if the child is not performing well, if the child is not coming to school, then it also becomes important that why, what is happening in behind the scenes, whether it is in the family or whether it is a peer group that is creating some kind of problem for the child. So those are the kinds of steps you may take. The only thing is be there for your child. Let it not be only an academic and transactional relationship. How a child less attentive can be made attentive. See, the moment you say the child is less attentive, my answer is that somewhere I, as a teacher, am not giving enough um, uh, scope in my classroom where the child finds himself connected, or he feels that I'm involved. The moment, if because this was asked by a teacher in the primary school, so you need to focus more transacting your curriculum in an extremely play based observational technique, so that the child does not even know, and he through different ways he's able to connect with the knowledge. And the moment he connects with learning, the moment he connects with learning, the child will be able to perform. So I think reflect upon your techniques. If it's just simple teaching and learn, you're teaching a chapter, the child Today's children will not. Even if you're showing a video on the screen, children will not, because you'll have to involve. So why I brought Xavier Pepper's methodology and his theory and his research was, the child has to create something. Stubborn, there are no stubborn children. There are only stubborn environments. Somewhere we are not giving them the kind of importance. That is where they become stubborn. When we label, we divide our classes into, this child can perform, this can't. In your head, in your body language, you may not have said it in the class, but your body language, the signals that we give, or the parents, the way. So, you need to, one, in your head, be extremely democratic in your classroom, not give too much importance to people who are giving the right answers. It's fine if they're giving the right answer, and not underplaying that child which is not performing well. So Shri, can you please keep telling this, choose some of the questions, because I can see a lot of questions coming in.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'll just go back to some of them.
You can also read all the questions. So far, I'll just read out few questions that I have observed for ma'am so that she
Yes,
can answer, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So
yes.
there's one question which is children show more interest in games rather than academic performances. How can I help such children?
Oh, that's very interesting. There is so much of talk. What is academic performance? This exact entire today's session was, academic performance is, what is your definition? Is it marks in the test? So why can't we convert our teaching learning through gamification? There is so much of talk about gamification. In fact, I was hearing our esteemed Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji's Man Ki Baat, and he stressed so much on gamification. So you change your technique, change your methodology of assessment, reduce the weightage, make your academic simpler, make your pen and paper test as simple as possible, and let the assessment, the difficult assessment, happen in an activity. Let's turn the tables. It's as simple. As a group,
Uh,
you can discuss. Yes.
the next question is how to incorporate innovation for class 12 while teaching in the limited time period.
See, when you talk about class 12 children, this more important for you is because you are bound by a curriculum, we are bound by a structure. So class to asking a question for class 12 innovation is very difficult to answer, because class 12, whatever has to happen has already happened. You can just keep becoming those support mentors and guides, because they are already under so much of pressure. And innovation is, in your, you can change your teaching methodology to a way which is, then you really have to reflect your teaching methodology. When you say innovative, your teaching methodology has to be innovative and not the content, because content is already there where they have to appear for the exam. But your teaching techniques, you need to use different techniques. If the child is not being able to perform through one teaching technique, how can I use another method? How can I use different kind of not teaching pedagogy as in terms of pedagogies, but examples. That is what probably is what you can take. So reflect on, have 3 to 4 ways in which you can teach a concept. So about every child will have a different technique to learn. Of course, class 12, there is a lot of pressure. You cannot think about different using different multiple intelligences in learning, but yes, you can give different examples through which the child can learn. Yes. Next.
Ma'am, there are two new questions. One is how to identify that the child is purposefully doing wrong or not answering.
If the child is not interested in your class, he will purposefully do that. So what is it that you bring to the classroom? What is the novel thing that you bring to your classroom? The child is forced to. Children, if they don't find, or even us, when we don't find meaning in anything, we want to drop out, we want to fizzle out, we just don't want to reply. So when you bring purpose, your relevance in the class, the child will automatically start responding. So it's just that he does not connect. And that is where I said, empathy driven, insight, providing him with those psychological spaces. Reflect, and you will get the answer for sure.
One last question that we'll take. This is, ma'am, how can we plan so many activities in a limited time period with abundant portions to complete?
That is exactly what I was telling you. That activity is not about just taking the children out of class or doing. You have to transform your teaching and integrate it. the it is not important you need to read the chapter to the children. Give them in the put them in the habit of reading the chapters or doing the chapter on your own and picking up. There is no one technique of teaching, reading the chapter, making them mark or something. One, you don't need to also do each activity in each classroom. But what this purpose of this whole session was, that you need to bring an innovative methodology into teaching. Your textbook driven technique will not work anymore. So when you say that activities, number one, now when the new session is about to begin, your activities, you can sit as a team, plan the activities, and give responsibilities. You can divide the work amongst yourself and plan those activities. But yes, activities, gamification, all this is, and I'm sure I've seen lot of Burlington books as well, and they are laden, super laden with so many activities which you just need to pick up and integrate in your classroom. But definitely, today's child will not respond to mere reading the chapter or completing a chapter. Yeah.
Ma'am, one last question we have. Very often, I find students considering gentle communication to be a sign of indecisiveness and lack of confidence. I'm curious if this is something they have picked up from adults. In that case, how do we deal with conflicting messages that we as adults subject children to?
So, yeah, it's a very good question. In fact, it's a very good question because somewhere our whole education system, and we have always been that sage on the stage with a lot of authoritarianism. And when the teacher is soft and gentle communication, they ignore because they have that preconditioned mindset. So, that is where, when we were talking about the strategies of, so first you need to build that kind of rapport with your classroom, and that you don't need a separate time for it. The moment your children understand that you mean work, when you mean work, you mean business when you are asking them to turn in submissions. So your passive strictness is the, don't take don't take the submissions if they do not adhere to the deadlines. Those are the passive strict measures you can take. But authoritarianism will not work, and children will understand gradually. Your body language, your mannerism, that is all that is required in the classrooms. Your body
Yes, I think that.
signals are very
Mhm.
important. Yeah.
So I think these are the questions. Yeah, so the
Thank
last question about the certificate, I just wanted everyone to like inform. You all will receive the certificate of this session via email in just couple of days.
Yes, thank you, Dolly, for the information. The certificates will be provided via emails. And thank you so much, Devyani ma'am, for another enriching session. And it's always a great pleasure and a extremely insightful learning experience to listen to you. And it's really very fortunate for me to be part of Burlington and the entire team, so to say, to have been partnered with you and get your insights time and again in the form of sessions. And looking forward to listening to you once again and engage in meaningful conversations. Thank you so much, educators who joined with us today. And you really made the session very engaging with your active replies, comments, and questions. Before we conclude, I would like to inform you about an ongoing contest that we are hosting. It is Be the Voices of Tomorrow 3.0, and this time it's about Twist in the Tail. It is open for students of grades 1 to 8. We encourage you to motivate your students to participate, host their own podcast style video, and creatively reimagine a story or poem. You'll find the details on our social media sites. The contest is open till 28th of February. So please do share it in the form of the link with your students and inspire them to take part. Thank you so much, everyone, once again. Have a good day.
Thank you so much. Thank you.